do this conference. It's the first time I host a conference, so thank you for being here with me. It's a safe space, relaxed environment. Hope you enjoy it and learn about women DJs specifically, producers, DJs, women in music, radio.
International Women's Day. El 8 de marzo conmemora el Día Internacional de la Mujer.
Dia Internacional da Mulher.
All right, I think I'm going to get started if you guys are good with that. I'm just going to say welcome to everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Kelly Belfo. I'm the co-founder of Flat Cola. It's an organization to support women DJs. I'm also head organizer of International Women's DJ. I'm also a registered nurse in the operating room. I've been working there for over 10 years and world music director at CJLO and DJ for almost 20 years now. I am actually going to introduce our station manager, Francella. If she's good, we are going to do a little land acknowledgement and she's going to say a few words. So I'm going to pass the mic to Francella.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in this very special conference on International Women's Day. Thank you so much to Kelly for organizing not just today's conference, but a week's worth of DJ mixes that we aired all last week. It was such a great way to celebrate all of the important and creative work that's done by women around the world and showcasing that on the radio. So thank you so much to Kelly for preparing that. So we do have a land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that this space is located on unceded Indigenous land. The Kanagahaga Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which we gather today. Montreal is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations who are still living and thriving today. It is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. It is also important for each and every one of us to realize our roles in perpetuating and fighting against the colonial project. So let us feel today in resistance to systemic oppression. Let us understand. Let us be stronger, more whole, taller, and when in doubt of our capabilities, only hold each other's hands tighter. We belong to this earth, we belong to each other, and we must fight for one another. So thank you for joining us again. Just briefly, I'm the station manager at CJLO 1690 AM. So CJLO is Concordia University's radio station. We've been operating since 1998, and we host a variety of shows in a variety of different genres. Anybody can get involved, from Concordia students to volunteers within the community, and we've been operating nonstop throughout 2020 and now going into 2021. So if you know someone who is interested in volunteering, learning more about radio, broadcasting, DJing, you can send them our way.
All right, so I'm just going to give you a quick backstory about International Women's Day. It's an event that we started last year. Lisette is here, she's nodding, because it was an event that we did broadcasting women DJs from Montreal, Miami, and Mexico City. The idea was to bring the ladies together online, and we did live broadcasts from one city, jump to the next, jump to the next. It was a lot to technically arrange, but it was a lot of fun. It was right before pandemic hit. It was March 8th, and then the world shut down on the 13th of March for us in Montreal. So we realized that we were onto something, like the next step, the way to communicate and keep in contact. So it kind of worked out in our favor because we were already moving forward. I wanted to find a way to connect with my ladies, without having to take a plane. As much fun as that is, to do it on another level. So that is where we are right now with International Women's Day. I'm like, well, let's expand beyond North America. So then we hit up women DJs from Europe and Africa and South America, and came with this event that is 1 week long. And the conference is the first time we do it. I really wanted to just talk with women, just talk with people who understood me. After 20 years DJing, sometimes you feel a little bit drained or conflicted about what you're doing. It's up and down, this whole environment. So I was like, I really need to talk with some women. I actually asked Sabine, I was like, if Sabine says yes, I'm like, I'm going to do this conference. So I asked her, she's like, yeah. And I'm like, it's happening, So that's how this conference started. And that's it. This is where we are today. So I wanted space to share with people who resemble me and who have my best interests at heart. And so I'm hoping that we can maybe give some insight to other DJs as well and share and, talk about whatever we need to and want to. All right. We also have Our panelist moderating with us, Michelle Anderson, is host of radio show To the Front and Gothic Runoff, and is a current coordinator of Women's Plus Collective at CJLO. The collective aims to increase femme and queer programming at the station, as well as document and share feminist history and theory. Michelle is a full-time student and artist who focuses on her experience as a person of color woman. Through CJLO and the Women's Plus Collective, Michelle strives to create relatable content that helps generate conversation and community.
Hi, everyone. I want to say thank you, Kelly, for inviting me to be a part of this panel. And thank you to Francella and CJLO for giving me this platform. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Happy International Women's Day. I think this is really a great thing to have, just important topics, especially coming from an international perspective. I think with COVID and everything, I've become really stuck of just like my little community or just like where I'm involved at Concordia. So it is really refreshing to kind of connect with people throughout the world that are kind of doing similar things and have similar maybe like goals, I guess. So I guess like my leading question into everything is, especially with like the COVID and the Black Lives Matter movement, there's been a lot of discussion about like emotional labor. And I know a lot of the panelists do work also in music, but then they also are, very prominent in their community and do activist work. So I'm just really curious about how you balance, especially on an international perspective, everyone here has different lived experiences. How do you balance emotional labor, but as well as also your own self-care and awareness and education, but then also keeping up with community? Because I think it's become very tiring. And I know a lot of people that I've talked to have become very tired. It's been tough. So I'm just wondering how you all kind of balance your work life, your personal life, but then also making sure you're still involved within your community and your own activist work.
El 8 de marzo conmemora el Día Internacional de la Mujer.
Dia Internacional da Mulher.
International Woman DJs.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for putting this together. It's very powerful. And what better way to celebrate it with fierce women identified DJs. So as you know, my name is Sabine Blazin of Oya Sound. This is a great question because although I'm a full-time artist, I'm also a full-time nonprofiteer and worked in the nonprofit and education sector for quite some time. So I've been doing on the ground programming and activism for youth and families, primarily of African descent. Right now, I'm a director at a nonprofit that works. It's a cultural arts organization that's African-centered. It's in alignment with a lot of the things that I do already and what I'm passionate about. So first off, I have to bring my whole self to anything that I do. So I think that term emotional labor is definitely there because there's things that go unrecognized, unpaid, extra hours, extra energy. But if you keep your eye on the prize, or at least the mission or the goal of what you're doing, the people, the issue fuel you in terms of what you want to do, and seeing an end goal or a solution in sight is definitely not easy. So definitely creating that work-life balance is very, very important. I think this pandemic has forced me to take a pause and really reassess everything, life in general, whether is all forms of health, right? Like mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, financial. So whether I liked it or not, I did it. And it made me really reassess the purpose of Oya Sound as well, because my existence as a Black woman in a primarily white or male-dominated genre, there has always been a constant fight, but also seeing the need for addressing in various ways some of these social justice issues, whether it's through the music, whether it's through doing direct service with youth and families, whether it's being unapologetic and people knowing that in the name of my brand or in the sound that I produce, the center is Africa and Haiti. It's at times emotionally draining, always to have to fight for a cause or having your identity on your sleeve, but at the same time, it's very empowering. So finding that balance and making sure that I'm taking care of myself, because I won't be of any use as what I call myself as an artivist. Being around other people, getting a really strong team, having these conversations, even the way that you opened up the space is those are tools and resources that we could keep in mind, that we don't have to do this huge revolutionary act, but in these small steps, you're always making a difference. And I had to pause and recenter and consider all of those things and when I need to take time off and create some serious boundaries as well.
El 8 de marzo conmemora el Día Internacional de la Mujer.
Dia Internacional da Mulher.
International Woman DJs.
For me, in Mexico City, per se, we don't have these like matters, but for instance, for like in Mexico, for a woman, it's super difficult to be in because cultural history, we have machismo. So you can find nowadays, people selling her daughters at age of 9 in Veracruz, or in still going these things. So, and of course, if you're in this big city like in Mexico City, you always you confront or face this violence, and it can be like, hey, like a few in the street, or it can be a rape, or it can be in the labor, in a professional way, like your boss is molesting and or whatever. And it's kind of common in Mexico. The women are sick of it, and nowadays we have a lot of collectives that are super and powerful. They are making noise, and a lot of noise. They are asking for justice because we disappear, like there are 10 women disappearing every day. Feminist is the like the voice, because all the women are getting together in this voice to confront this. So it's been from 5 years to now that this got stronger. And for me, like being a female DJ or a cultural producer, it has been difficult. I have been doing this like 10 years ago, maybe 15, in some DJing and organizing. I faced a lot of machismo in this way, in this path. But I know that my way to to face this is still doing it, and still getting together with women and men, like are in my same mood and in my same argument, like in statement, I want to say. Yeah, and so it's difficult to be a woman in this country. I think it's getting stronger, like this movement, and it's getting men are getting scared about the woman now.
El 8 de marzo conmemora el Día Internacional de la Mujer.
Dia Internacional da Mulher.
International Woman DJs.
For me, I was like, it was special because I was always like touring everywhere, and then everything stopped, and I lived by myself in a tiny apartment, so it's just like, it's very like a lot of adaptation that I need to do. But at the same time, I work in media now for like the national media, whatever, so it's something else. But I still see people organizing and doing stuff. Like I did a performance at Club Quarantine. I respect that organization a lot. I did a little party that was kind of like that, with the Zoom parties. It was fun because me too, most of my audience and friends are based in different cities, so I understand Kelly of like already like mobilizing to do stuff like that. I mean, it was already part of my daily, the fact of like not seeing people and not being able to connect with one another. To me, it was very difficult. I mean, in Montreal, there has been so much thing happening in the nightlife when there was a second wave of Me Too. So a lot of names were called out in the nightlife. Either it was like bar people or artists and such. And I mean, there was no sense of community to be able to connect with the girls and do stuff like that. So sometimes there were like people who didn't understood each other, or conversation that I feel we could have like if they were not digital. But I mean, as I say to my friends, I'm like, spring is like the rebirth, and if we want to take it, we can take it back. It's just a matter of like finding some friends. And for instance, in Montreal, because we're the only province who have a curfew and stuff, it's kind of special. But I have family too who work in the health system, so I see how it's going. But I feel like culture gives something to like social justice movements, you know, either it's like women rights or, you know, black civil rights and stuff like that. So we need culture to support that. And I feel like this curfew and all, amongst all these things, like it's difficult to really give people space to feel like good together, united under the same goal of like.
Thank you so much. I guess your answer, Aisha, as well as Lizette's answer, kind of brings like another question that I had. And back like in pre-COVID, when I was working with the Women's Plus Collective, like in interviews, I always kind of like asking this question because one of the goals is to bring in more like femme DJs and gender non-conforming DJs and training them to be on the radio. And one of the questions I always kind of ask people when I interview them is, how do you, you know, still make connections in the community? Or how do you, you know, what advice would you give to people that might seem scared or intimidated, you know, to DJ or to be involved in music? Because it can seem very intimidating. It is such a male dominated culture. And I have a lot of female friends and gender non-conforming friends that want to go on the radio so bad and approach me, but, you know, they just get too scared. They feel like it's not their place. So I guess I'm just kind of curious if you have any advice or how to make and maintain like those connections, if that makes sense.
And my advice, it's actually lol, it's the title of my EP, upcoming EP, and it's no more toning down. You won't tone down, because often male will make production seem difficult and complicated and blah blah blah, you cannot understand. But often it's like their own insecurity, they're just scared of like greatness and stuff like that, so they project that on you. People have done that to me, so it's real, and the feeling that you feel is real, but you must, you know, break through it and just like, no more toning down, and just take it back, because it was yours in the beginning. If like, as another one of my catchphrases, stick to the script. It was yours since the beginning, so just like grab it because it was yours. Just do it. There's YouTube for you. There's YouTube that can tell you literally everything you need to know. You don't need like a little boy telling you how Ableton works or anything. And you have other female identifying people or non-binary folks that can like help you out with anything, like if you have questions. I mean, I'm always very open about people coming to me and, you know, that are marginalized and are asking for help. I'm always like, yeah, like you could do this, not, you know. There's no, it's only, and everybody's improvising. Everybody's like, oh my God, like how did I get here? How did I tour like all these cities? Like how did I do that? You know, so you're just improvising. You just have to be, you know, ahead a little bit of your things so it can work.
I agree with you. You know, like you just go and you do your things. For instance, when I work in production, in stage or whatever, a lot of men are there, no? And they see you like, oh yeah, this girl, oh yeah. And when you prove what you are made of, hey, this is why I am, this is how I work, and I've been nice with people. I am, easygoing with everyone. So I can see in sometimes when you met a collaborator man in your stage, they just think that you don't know, and they want to show you how this does work. And when they realize that you already know, I mean, they can be amazed sometimes. And that's the whole point, you know, because I know women can get angry because of that, you know, but I think that we have to control ourselves and we have to show what we have inside instead of getting angry or, you know, getting into an argument. Because the best way for you to express what you are is doing it. So that's what I think, and I agree with Aisha that go and do it and show the world what you have.
After a while, I'm not even really thinking about men when I'm doing this work. I believe you said it's for me or of me, right? And a lot of work that I do, or how I got into DJing, production, and event curation, is as a club kid, right? I collected records of songs I like to hear in the club. I was a nerd, I was a geek, you know, and I've learned things on my own. I was always, you know, do it yourself type chick. And I wasn't really thinking about anyone at the time. It wasn't until I got into the industry and started DJing or creating a name for myself that these stereotypes or these issues started coming up. I definitely agree. You need to create your own lane in whatever genre, whatever platform, whatever form of the industry that you're in. And you create such a unique craft that there's no competition. There's no like comparison because this is who you are. For me, it's also a spiritual thing. So it's a calling. So no one can refute that, right? This is my path. This is how I've been empowered and strengthened through, my ancestors. And I have a very clear vision. So I think that's very important as we get into this work or to inspire others. Like, what is your vision? Like, what do you foresee? Like, what is the stamp you want to create in the world? How do you amplify your voice? What are you contributing to whatever scene that you're a part of? Right? I'm very specific, but also I'm not a monolith, or you can't categorize me. So it's going to be a little bit hard to do that. Two, best of luck, right? Because as we grow and evolve, especially as women, we're creators, and we're actually the source. Behind a lot of these men that are pushed in the forefront, there's a lot of women that were actually doing the work and or supporting them. Obviously, the issue is that we're not getting recognized and or there is invisibility, but doesn't mean that women aren't doing this work or have been doing this work. So definitely tapping into a network of folks that are doing it, like this group, and or doing your research and finding really dope women that have been doing this, and finding your inspiration, even if it's not specific to your genre, but a woman that inspires you, whether it's family, whether it's a social media influencer, whether it's a historical political figure, and just keep your eye, again, I keep using this phrase, but keep your eye on the prize, or just stay focused. I think regardless, you're going to get resistance from men, women, whomever, but as you really know yourself as an individual, there's no refuting that, right? And then that would be exhibited in your work.
I realized also that I didn't introduce our panel, so I'm going to do that real quick. Sabine, who just spoke, is DJ, producer, event planner, focuses on the exposure and pleasures of African diasporic music. Brooklyn Mecca, Kumbancha, and Oya Sound Productions are some of her creative projects. So Oya Sound is something that she's working a lot on now. It is a music lifestyle brand highlighting intersections of cultures of African diaspora through traditional rhythms and electronic music, such as house, Afro tech, Afrobeat, Haitian roots. Sabine has also worked for OSHA Records as a brand marketing director producer, also curated various events and panel discussions for various organizations such as the Caribbean Cultural Center African Diaspora Institute, highlighting the power of spirituality and art. And she was also honored at the 27th Annual Women of Power Conference 2014, The Art of Being a Woman. Congratulations. So Sabine ultimately seeks to create new scholarship through the African and Haitian diasporic lens of music, culture, and spirituality. So welcome, Sabine. From our hometown of Montreal, Aisha Vertus, DJ, producer, writer, music curator. Aisha, aka Gaillance, a Creole word for joyfulness, is a perfect fit for Aisha as it both celebrates her Haitian roots and her love for making people laugh. She is hilarious. Raised in Montreal, Aisha has spent the last few memorable summers in Sao Paulo, Salvador de Bahia, and also moved to Brussels in 2017. Back from Belgium, Aisha created global relations. She was talking about her World Wide Web parties earlier, and we really needed that, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. We didn't know what was going on. Everybody was like confused. Aisha throws out these parties. It was a place for people to come together. It was so quick, so well done. I was really impressed. I was really proud. It was a great party. It was like the first of the Zooms. During the pandemic in the summer of 2020, you held events, the Black Queer Global Convention. Since then, Aisha shines her quick wit and charming personality and musical knowledge on her podcast, Les Bulletins des Cousins. I love it. And she also has a pre-sale for her debut single, Gogoya. Obrigada. Flipping an edit of her favorite Brazilian singer, Gal Costa. And so we look forward to hearing that. Bienvenue, Aisha. And also from Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City, we have DJ, producer, visual artist Lisette Jansen Corona, aka Hits Wonders. Lisette has been working in audiovisual production, cultural events since 2007, with experience in producing, coordinating music, film festivals, art fairs, and academic activities, such as currently being invited as guest speaker and producer at Ableton Spaces Mexico 2020, because she is a killer on Ableton. Lizette is also current director of Nos Cientos Grados, a platform dedicated to creating, producing, and promoting urban and artistic expression. From house funk, electro surf, tropical punk, glam, rock, and more, Lizette's, aka Hits Wonders, is dedicated to creating a meaningful dance floor experience each time she plays. Bienvenida, Lizette. So I was hoping we could kind of start a little bit of our story of when we started, if we had any stories that we want to share, experiences, and maybe things we can teach others. When I first started DJing in around 2002, I met a DJ Roller Girl. She is about 10, 15 years my senior. She was a pioneer in the Montreal scene. And she would give me advice from how much I should ask to get paid, how to say no, how to, keep away from grabby, unruly clients. Like, she really helped me. She spoke a lot about how we should support each other. I never understood that until more, as I got older. So she's definitely my mentor. Have you guys had any mentors in your early age? Are you a mentor? And some experiences when you first started DJing?
I have a few mentors. Women mentor came later in my parcours, but I think that at that point when I met older female DJ or women identified DJs, I was kind of starting to be a mentor myself, because I feel like, as we learn, we can also teach, and I really think it's very important, especially when it comes to like how much to get paid, also how to promote yourself and stuff like that. People are often stressed about it and they don't know how to do and stuff like that. So like that's some stuff that I taught, and I gave many DJ workshops in Montreal and also in Brussels, teaching people how to play either on CDJs or on vinyl, because especially vinyl, I feel like it's something that it's like, oh, intimidating, oh my god, but it's just it's not as that intimidating, you just have to teach people how it is. It's important to teach like the younger ones how things are, what's the price, locally, like minimum price, because often like one of my kids, I mean, they were asked to play $75 for a whole night, and I was like, what? Never do that again, and also understanding that even though you have financial issues, sometimes people, like, they really have no choice to take that gig, otherwise they'll have to make money another way. Let them know their worth, like, hey, like, nah, you need to get paid, but more, so it doesn't also fuck up the whole ecosystem, as well. It's very important.
I would say, in terms of mentors, I always say that my father was my first DJ, and whether I was conscious of it or not, it wasn't like I grew up to be like, oh, I'm gonna be a DJ, but it was just that sensibility or something that was innate to me. But just growing up listening to my father play a variety of songs and artists on vinyl, and it was like a weekend thing. I think it was ingrained in me from compa, salsa, country music, hip hop, soul, pop. And that was my first influence. As I got older, I had a really good friend from Chicago who was a DJ, and I would just buy vinyl at Dance Track, and I didn't have the full setup. I remember buying my DJ starter kit. It was statins, not techniques. As I was building my little system, I would buy my vinyl and just play it at his house. And, he was like, you have a really good ear. Why don't you just open up like a basement brownstone party? And that's how it started. We outgrew the basement because our friends and dancers were coming through. So definitely an underground Brooklyn spot. Then we moved to a soul food restaurant. They agreed to like push the chairs and just give us a space. And we thought it was going to be like one-offs, right? But it turned into 6 years. And initially it was called Soul in the Hole NYC. He did Soul in the Hole in Chicago, was part of that crew. And then we renamed it to Brooklyn Mecca because it was a trek to even get there from the train station. And we were like, oh, when you get to the spot, it's like a Mecca, spiritual oasis. That's when a lot of, especially in my generation of house and house dancers, I started out just dancing in the clubs, so it was a lot of our friends and a lot of crews started during that time, whether it was Mawu, Afro Mosaic Soul, a whole bunch of folks that, that are house dancers now, but I also had traditional groups come through so we could see that connection. So we had West African dancers, samba dancers, capoeiristas, breakers, house dancers, and it was a beautiful thing. And we were building something that was a little bit different from just going to a club. And it was Brooklyn based. So it was in our hood. There, I was able to really practice. I was able to really like create a name for myself. And even during that time, I wasn't like, oh, I want to be this like international DJ. It was just for the love and passion of music and seeing my community come together and my friends. And I love dancing as well. But that grew into me getting local gigs, then gigs outside of New York, and then gigs, overseas. And the supplemental money, I was like, oh, this is dope. I'll get paid for what I'm passionate about. And that afforded me to like get better equipment and do things like that. So I always equate my father and my friend Kwame Akbar as being my influencers, but also just the energy that I feel from my fellow dancers, it was definitely reciprocal and kept me going to do this. And then it became my business. It became my brand. It became another full-time job, which I'm really blessed and happy to do. It was a beautiful thing. So I think I'm always constantly being influenced by the folks that come to my parties, that allow me to push myself, to think outside the box, to go into production, because I have these rhythms in my head. And I'm like, how am I going to translate this? Because I love to play stuff live. I want to play the tambour. I want to, play, the cowbell and all of that. And I was like, oh, there's ways of doing that. Just record it. Yeah, okay. And then, partner up with people who have those technical skills, and then you just activate that other side of your brain. And I was like, yeah, this is something that I want to do. And when I produced my first track, that just that opened up this other side of me. So yeah, so it's just beautiful. I'm always influenced by people, situations, and just move with spirit.
Well, for me, it was this story. It's kind of a drama thing, but it's like really transcendental for me. My first influence in music for me was my family, my dad, my sister. They're older than me, and they have, like this music and vinyls collection and cassettes and whatever. Who really encouraged me to do this was my boyfriend in that time, like 10 years ago. He told me, hey, you have a great music. And because I was always putting my iPod or my mini disc or whatever in the parties, and he said, hey, what do you think if we invest in some equipment and we start and you DJ and we DJ? And because Hits Wonder started as a duo, and he encouraged me, he asked me that, if we can invest in equipment so we can rent it and we can play in houses, because it was this was more underground, going to private parties. Actually, I play more in private parties and like weddings, or like anniversaries or festivals. Or actually I was VJing before DJing. I kind of learned how to move in in this business with like as a DJ. But after we did Hits Wonders, well, for us was pretty fun but pretty tiring, because this kind of life living like in night and whatever, it's kind of tiring, but it fit our soul. And it continued, and like he passed away 7 years ago, and in Montreal. So that's why Montreal is a very special city for me. After that, I believe that I was really filled doing this, because people say, no, stop doing it, change your name, do another thing. DJing as Hit Wonders make me more powerful, and a lot of doors open in my face, like, hey, come to play. And big stages. I didn't realize how was I playing with some other people that I admire, right? Or with some other characters, experimental. Once I played like a jam with a cartoonist in a international book fair in Leon, and he's, they are famous cartoonists, and I haven't done this thing. There was an experimental thing, like DJing with them in the stage. Meanwhile, they are drawing and talking to the people. There were like 2,000 people, and it was crazy. And our friends, of course, continued inviting me to play. Here I am, no? A lot of friends, like in Ableton, they opened to me, like they were super supportive with me. They realized that I was playing with Ableton, and they spot me, and they invited me in Ableton users, and like every time going to new workshops, and and involved with that. Now it's well, pandemic change everything, because events, like I really miss them. I really miss the dance floor. I am a dancer too, so, like every time I go to a party, I mean, we heard like the same music, the pop, the mainstream, and we were tired of that. So we played other things totally, like all these rock and roll or a go-go or mashups. And now, well, it turns to be like to do more streamings and to do more, like get virtually and wait for the events to go on. But I think this just changed. I think open, like democratic the channel. When you're on the ground, I mean, you are not in the scene, you are not in the spotlight, but underground is already a scene. So I love to be underground, and that's why and that's how I started actually.
You mentioned COVID, right? Like how everything kind of changed. It's actually, I want to bring that to our next question. With this increase of digitalization, now everything online. Well, first, how has COVID affected you? If it has, how has the computer a lot more, working from home a lot more? Even if I have my own hours, I feel like I'm giving myself less rest, less time to eat. So I just want to see how you guys are adapting and coping, and some tools perhaps.
I mean, it's true, like the eating thing and stuff like that. I mean, for myself, it's difficult because I already have like behaviors of very like working. I'm a Capricorn. Living by myself, it's like, it sounds stupid, but like it's hard to take care of my own self, like clean the house, do the dishes, do my laundry, make a nice food, and plus do the work that I have to do to pay that rent, because it's not everybody who have access to like money from the government to help them, like me, I'm Canadian, but I don't have CPU, so I mean, I have no choice to work. You're like, oh shit, and then it's difficult. I'm still right now trying to balance. There's a moment I'm like, if I'm tired, I'm tired, and it's like it's a constant like resetting yourself, and sometimes it's just try to fit some good habits. Like I started working out in the morning since January, and I'm actually always doing it because now it became like normal, as they say, like 21 days. You do something 21 days and it's fine. But DJing too, I mean, it kind of drifted for me because like I told in the beginning, I actually moved back to Montreal in the middle of a pandemic. So I couldn't buy like from Europe to Montreal, like I sold everything. So I couldn't like get like the whole kit. So I was like, well, am I a DJ? Am I a DJ? And asking myself some stupid questions. So mentally, it was like 2020 was kind of hard. It was like, ooh. But now I'm back. I have 7 tracks. And like, it takes time. Sometimes you have to take your time, it's just, everybody's on the same boat and it's not a race, and really it's a time to like really like recalibrate like how we take care of ourselves, because we're DJs. I mean, I could drink a bottle of rum by myself, before this pandemic. I'm small and stuff, but I could not be hangover and drink all the alcohol, and it was like not something that I glorify, and I tell people like, yo, I'm so cool, I drink rum every night, but like maybe that was not good, and maybe it's better like to quit and not drink, and I feel like it's just like resetting people into like, woo, eating better. I've like the sleep cycle, I don't know for you guys, but me, I'm still not there yet, also because I'm always speaking every day to people in Europe. So at like 5 a.m. I'm already like speaking to people in Europe, so I'm like already awake and stuff. So it's like, oh, I didn't catch like the whole sleep cycle of like DJs not sleeping at night and stuff like that. have a crazy insomnia, even though I do sports, everything. I did everything. It doesn't work. But like, it's just like finding time of like, yeah, like maybe it will take another year for me to like calibrate, but it's just every day is not the same, but it's the same. But like, just like if you have to start back and just like, yeah, no, I'm trying to not pressure myself as much as possible. I invite everybody to not pressure themselves.
Definitely that quarantine 15 kicked in. I think I just kept pushing my day job. Luckily, I was still able to have it, but we went remote. And also I was one of the people that had to figure that out. I mean, a lot of people had to figure that out. So if you had a job where you had to go in person and then you had to create this whole like online platform of communication, that was a learning curve. So one of the things that came out of this is that I learned a lot of different platforms, right? Whether it's Google Meet, Zoom, whatever, to do, meetings or events. But honestly, I did not like, and I'm still getting used to this whole new normal of doing live streaming or virtual events, only because it was requested by people. And, I'm just missing the dance floor. I'm missing, dancers, fellow DJs, but I'm seeing how creative we're becoming in these spaces. So I'm trying to get inspired by that as well, but also find my own niche within it and still be true to myself and not necessarily jumping on a bandwagon to get on Twitch or whatever. And you have to stream like 10 million times to get followers and subscribe and get some money. That's a beautiful thing, because if that's your hustle, then that's real, right? Not everybody has the privilege to have multiple jobs or what have you. And it's hard to even maintain that. Sleep is definitely an issue. Definitely need to balance that out, because you're online all the time. And if you're working at home, you're working more hours. That's what's happening. And you're always online. So your vision, your energy, grabbing snacks here and there, there's no particular like rhythm or routine, like Aisha was saying. If you're not a self-starter, and if you haven't had a foundation or rituals put in your life already, and even with someone like me, like I have all these rituals, but it took me some time to really center myself and really pull away, because there's always work that needs to be done. It's never ending. But I really made sure that I had to be conscious that the amount of energy that I'm putting into someone else's organization, I need to put into Oya Sound. So now I am doing that, but I have to find that balance where I pull away from both and get rest and rejuvenate. So I've been doing this 21-day walk through Girl Trek, which is a great organization. It ties the physical health, the movement, just getting outside your house, 30 minutes, walk wherever. But they also give you a curated playlist. They feature a woman activist, historian, influencer, and speeches and interviews and music influenced by that woman featured that day. So as I'm walking, I'm being inspired, and I missed the first cycle and I was like, beating myself up. And then I joined the second cycle, and it was exactly what I needed, just to get up and move. Also trying to find some things online, but I want to support, I'm very intentional. So I want to support Black women or Black businesses, especially during this time, and finding people who are doing classes online. So I took some, dance classes, some yoga here and there. I'm still not feeling it because I'm like, I'm by myself. But other than that, it's just really pushing yourself and having faith that, we're going to come through on the other side of this. And I know a lot of people have lost loved ones, and people have been affected, whether they recovered, but just like really keeping your immune system intact. So I invested and I bought some things just to have in the house, and I have to visually put it out on my counter to remind me to take it. So that's another thing as well. And then mentally, just really trying to invigorate my mind, because I can't always be in front of a computer. If I'm having a meeting, if I'm working in my day job, then as a DJ, it's a lot of electronics, right? So we got to figure out, and I miss that live discussion or playing. So whether it's live instruments as well. So I've been trying to do that and set some time aside to do that. But I would say I definitely learned a lot in terms of the use of equipment that I need to get, because essentially my home is going to become a TV studio. So just like, I just have to train my mind to do those things. So it's also like I'm learning new things. So I'm like, okay, we're resilient people. We have adapted. We've made something out of nothing. Look at the start of hip hop. Look at the evolution of different genres and different forms of art. So I'm trying to put myself in that mind state state, that this is just another evolution, right? And how can I find control, find my place, and be comfortable enough to be future facing? So it's definitely a balance.
Well, for me, when I faced, starting this past year of the pandemic, I tried to look at myself actually, because I'm a freelancer. I have always been working in home. I just go out to meetings and work. I already have this home office routine. I love to do roller skate and go out, and I stopped doing that because going out and I miss that a lot because that was my way to, like distress myself. And of course, I stopped having money of events. So I have to think about how I'm going to reinvent myself because I know I believe that we're not going backwards, like back to the old normality is senseless. So how I'm going to be Lisette from now on and how I'm going to project myself. And so I asked Eric from Radio Packs to do some kind of aliens, to do some streaming. We can do maybe selling spaces for, brands and everything and continue doing what I love with help for sure, because alone we can do it alone. We always need friends and loved ones to be supportive. And people I like who believe in what they do, they're passionate in music. In my case, Radio Packs with me, we are looking forward to do these streamings and creating content because he is already doing that in podcast. But for me, I wanted to implement, or add the visual part because I am an audiovisual producer. Of course, with 900 grados, I'm aware, I'm concerned about not the climate change, but how we can interact with our environment and how we are kind of destroying the world. I designed some tables with plants inside made from tires. So I pick up tires and that's a job for me because I'm a stencil artist. So I can sell my art job and my unique designs and it's a really good profit for me. I wanted to do more. This is now a new starting for me to that. But I believe doing that, it completes me because I am doing something in a small way, but I think I'm not doing it. And of course, continue looking for other kind of jobs like editing video or editing audio, anything that I have in my hands. And of course, learn more things because there's a lot of things that I still don't know. No? Virtual reality now and really augmented reality have these amazing spaces that we can create more. And I know I understand what Sabine says about not going into a computer no more because it kind of sucks your energy, and I know it's not good for your eyes. Pandemic opened this whole new world in a virtual way, and it's kind of virgin path because there are not a lot of people doing this. A lot of eyes are starting looking there because it's a virgin path to go in and to experiment. I see Peaches in the CTM festival, and she's amazing. She has a great project. She created a video game, and you create your own character, and she creates her character, and in this whole new world and crazy world because like it's not what you are used to in this reality. I think it's a pretty reto. Like you have to have this goal, go for it, and look forward for new things always, and get reinvented yourself.
2020 has been a crazy year for so many things. I mean, obviously, we're not going back. It has brought to attention a lot of really important political, social things as well. Political intersection, Black Lives Matter and Me Too movements in particular have really come out more in music. And I feel like the DJ's role has really kind of shifted back to a position where we need to like teach and educate as we used to. Like it used to be something we did to teach people. Then it kind of got to just like club stuff. Like, I don't know, I think we lost meaning for a minute, but I feel like we kind of regained that as a role, at least for a DJ. I always thought that was kind of our role. So I want to know if you have been affected by these political intersections in your work and what you do.
I mean, of course, but I don't feel like, even though we talk about Me Too movements And regarding women, I mean, there's a situation happening in Montreal, but like people, I feel like even though we say that there's a group of individuals that are consistently making parties and 5 of them are abusing women, and for that per se, dark-skinned women and Black women, people, they don't boycott or they don't ask for accountability, because often I feel like, especially I'm gonna talk about Montreal, but I feel like because these individuals are like important for the culture, people, they won't boycott them or they won't ask them accountability and boycott them until they have that accountability, you understand? If you are against these people that are the culture, then you're bad, because the other ones, for them, their power starts where their power start, you understand, without naming names, but and to me, that's something very difficult. I feel like, why can we cannot change anything if we're hiding behind, oh, this group are for the culture but they're abusing women. It is clear, it's difficult for me. Like, sometimes I know I defend some things or I address things that people are like kind of shocked. What are you saying that this group is bad? They are doing this for the culture. And I'm like, no, but I've seen testimonies that are similar from women saying that they've lived abuse. Why are we still buying mixtapes from them? Why are we still going to parties of them? Why are we still buying clothes from them? Why are you still celebrating these people while they never took accountability? I'm not a person who's like, gonna cancel people. I just feel like accountability is key, because canceling a person, you can just be like, oh, you're gone, but the person won't even like talk about what they did, and like everybody's gonna heal together about the thing that happened, you understand? And I feel like with that whole social media thing, people have their own little image to protect, and like, oh, I'm associated close or near from this group, so I don't want to say bad things, even though you Google the name of the founder and you find accusations that are very, very serious. I just don't understand. People just like, for a day, they don't say anything, and then I mean, for the community, it's important to have accountability regarding anything, because even in the queer community, sometimes there's racism and such. Everybody has biases, it's just like, let's talk about it and let's take accountability for it, because especially for that group, this group is very known, very influential, and people are still praising them even though they know they've been abusers. It's just like, I don't know, I'm just tired of like telling men or other female like, hey, like they need to take accountability. We all need to ask them to give that to the community. That's the thing that I found that is difficult, because at the end of the day, it's all rooted in capitalism. Because, oh, if you are popular, you're gonna book me for gigs, and I'm gonna be seen with you, so I'm gonna have more gigs and I'm gonna have more followers. No, I'd rather say this person we need to know, we need an apology, we need accountability, we need you to go see, a therapist or something because you're toxic for the community. I'd rather say that loudly and not be able to play than just like be silent. And I know that because I'm like that, many people don't like me in this city, because I know these big guys doing these bad things, and I'm not scared to say it louder. Right now, I'm not saying the name. Usually I would have said it, but there's mise en demeure, a cease and desist, towards like some of the victims, so I cannot, perpetuate that, so they get in trouble as well. But I mean, it's just like, if the justice system is not on the side of like victim of sexual abuse, how, if the community doesn't want to ask for accountability, how can we move forward? How, I mean, it's just a full circle of like, oh, you have power, you have access to money, you can abuse women and even men or even non-binary folks, because it's just, nobody can hide from these violences, but we can like prevent them. That's the key. I'm proud because in Montreal there's an association called Pluri, who brings like safe place on the dance floor, and I really praise these people because they're really doing work, you know, in parties, like having like people who like, you know, do intervention when they see like harassment or to prevent it to be an aggression, you understand? And yeah, we really need to stop as a whole, like, you know, being like, oh no, I don't want to see, I don't want to, they're too popular, we cannot call them out or we cannot ask them for accountability. I mean, let's call a cat a cat. That's it. And yeah, that's just for me an issue I feel with the whole intersectional of things.
Thank you for sharing that and just like voicing your opinion. You don't even have to say who it is, but it all resonated with us because we know examples of that, unfortunately, over and over again for generations. One of the things I was going to say that is important for us to form these collectives, have space that even if you feel like you can't voice it at this time or don't even know how to voice what has happened to you, that there's other women that could protect you, could vouch for you, and or we could learn together how to push this forward. Definitely not supporting, once you're knowledgeable about it, who these men are or industry folk or whatever. And I've definitely done that several times, even though it kills me because I love their craft. I love their music. I love how they present themselves in the world. So when I hear that they've done X, Y, and Z, I'm in shock. I'm surprised. But then at the same time, it's about integrity. And it doesn't matter how talented you are, but as a person, you know, if you don't have good character, if you don't know how to treat your lover, your mate, your family member, then you're not really good for society. And then also, whether they know it or not, there is a next generation that's watching them. And then they also get the green light that this is okay, or this is how I make it, or this is how I do it. And that goes for both men and women. Unfortunately, it's become allowable, like, okay, in order for me to get to this certain position, I have to do X, Y, and Z. But it's unfortunate that we have to limit ourselves, allow these men to abuse us in various ways. I definitely think it takes a strong group of women to voice what's going on and also to hold space, you know, in any way that we can. I definitely think that if there's someone that we know, we got to call it out. I mean, just figure out the right way to do that. So it's preventable for other women to not go through the same thing. But this is a very important topic. It's definitely timely. And I've seen it over and over again in various genres of music, but definitely in the house scene as well, because there's but so many women that are the top 5, top 10. So when you start narrowing it down, then you hear these stories, you're like, I mean, how unaware can you be at this point? But we allow them to be in these positions.
But it's so true that it's like it impacts also the youth afterwards, you know? Like we just said, like I was not in Montreal for 3 years, and I feel like 3 years out of the city is like a lot because Montreal has 4 universities, so it means like there's a lot of circus and new people coming in and out of the scene. So it means like younger folks who are not used to like a certain environment, stuff like that. And so I came back and I saw all these stuff that were happening, and I'm like, damn, you know, it's important to have like accountability from these people because others will still repeat these biases and these harassment and these abuse, you know, and it's all that for what? For like power. And to me, it's like rooted in capitalism. Ooh, because I have this amount of followers and this amount of people going to my party, I'm important, I have value, and it makes me able to do XXX, you know, and I'm just like, what? And it kills me. It happened really in a circle of Black folks abusing Black folks, and then people who were like trying to deny it were also Black folks. So it was just like, damn, like to me it was very hard to be the only one who's like, no, you know, and it's like, oh no, she's just like crazy again with these 20 victims. I will not shut up, you know, about these type of things. And I really don't, and I know that they know that I don't care of getting less opportunities just because I speak up about these matters, you know.
I think it's important, but I'm just like feeling you because this is an important topic. It's important for us to find our tribe, right? So for those that don't listen to us or don't believe us, I mean, the truth is in the testimonies of these women that you were talking about. So most important is trying to find resources to support them. Like if there is an emergency, here's a number. If there's a place you need to live or food, here's a nonprofit, here's a resource. So I'm more interested in creating that resource for women. And it's unfortunate because you want your people to be behind you, right? But sometimes we have to do this work alone, but find the right tribe as well. And it takes a little extra step. And of course, you're doing that. I just completed a weekend of like, I don't even know the number of women, but all female DJs. It's called Women's Empowerment. And this promoter in the club scene that I've seen over years, Becky Nunez, she put it together with House Nation Music out of Italy to do this live streaming. And basically all the women did it for free. It was all these female DJs from all over, folks I've never heard of, like people who are older than me, younger than me, all nationalities and ethnicities. And I'm like, yo, it just made me realize there's so many talented women out there, not only DJs, that could play as well and as hard as men, but obviously they don't have the platform or the recognition, right? It could be a personal choice if you don't want to push your brand in that way. But all the women that I was able to capture, I'm like, what? Like where is she from? Who is this person? So the point is that we all collectively came together without knowing each other, but the common denominator is that we were supporting an organization called supportsophia.org that helps women who experience domestic violence. And whether we experience it ourselves, we are women and we know what that feels like, whether it's hearing other people's stories and or you wouldn't want that for anyone, right? So it was just really powerful that over a whole weekend of live streaming from 12 p.m. to like 2 a.m. the next day, all these women came together to do that and to raise money. So having collectives doing work like that could definitely help us push forward. We have to create the spaces ourselves because these folks are not going to do it for us. That's the whole point. And I like how you mentioned capitalism at the root, right? And just white male patriarchy as well. If we're going to just name it all the way, but it's real. It's real. And unfortunately, we have to continue doing this work, but create spaces for ourselves and share resources. I think that's one way we could be proactive about it. So thank you for sharing that.
Sabine, can you share a link on the Women of Empowerment if you have one? Lisette, did you want to share?
Yeah, well, this is a really delicate topic because political is, like super incorrect here. In Mexico, we have this president that is supporting rapists in other governors, and he's like getting tired of the movement, but that shows that he really don't understand his position, and that's super disappointing because our president is supposed to be our like this changing of everything, no, the new whole Mexico and everything. And for instance, the culture secretary in Mexico, they plan one whole month about it's called Tiempos de Mujeres, and it's a program from government that involves a lot of women and improves and collectives and everything. But at the same time, right now, I mean, because women are so angry and pissed off about all the death and disappearing. I mean, every year in this day, we go together and go to the Zócalo, which is the El Ombligo del Mundo, to the center of the Mexico City, and go. And there's the palace where this guy worked. So now he puts a wall around all this building because back in the days, the girls graffiti and destroy and burn, really angry thing. And this government just keep pushing, like it puts up barriers. It's a wall in the building, and that's, I think it's like from like the wall of the Trumps, no? I mean, it's a symbol of what is happening. There is no communication between collective because a lot of mothers, a lot of families that are around, this collective, they found kind of justice or some kind of support of their missing people. And this collective support this family because we don't have this really justice system good at all. I mean, because every time you go to this justice system and, hey, I have this thing, no, you are the guilty one, like the victims are the guilty, and sometimes we deserve it or whatever. That's the point of view of our leaders and our women's leaders they're also, well, they're not supportive. They don't understand. They just go what the whole system goes and what pays for more, and it's super disappointing. I don't know how to, I mean, because we have this account, I mean, we can know the names of these guys, and in music business there are endless list of these guys. I mean, you can read awful things in the Me Too Mexico, but also it was crazy because what I found in one point is that not all the girls were real, and it got confused everything, and all hate, I mean, well, not all, but I mean, a lot of people hate feminists because of that, because they're angry women, and like there's always a battle between us and like the people, and I don't think we're quite understanding the problem really, and it's about respect, and it's about values, and it's about how you treat your mother and your sister and your brother, of course. No, it's about a human rights and human relations, because violence has done sex. Violence is violence, and that's why, I mean, I've seen women hitting her child. It's disappointing. So it's a delicate topic, I mean, for me to express, because I am angry with these guys, and I'm angry with violence, and I want to do like this kind of thing that by music, that is a meta-linguistic way to approach to another human, direct in the feeling, and the message is in the song or in the track or whatever. I don't want to get too much political because of this misunderstanding thing. I want to continue playing, and I have to be creative in the way to do and to express what I believe.
It's true. Thank you, Lisette. Sometimes we need to like almost censor ourselves in a way to send a message without it being too hard, or people might not understand, in a way to make people understand. Sometimes even just dropping new music, it's like that too. I think generally people sometimes aren't ready. So it's like you kind of have to slowly introduce it to people. And I think that's a little bit, I was interviewed for a magazine in Montreal here, and they asked me my perception of like the difference between male DJs and female DJs, and it's totally biased. Like at the time when I first started, men would just play music to make women dance, like it was like a structure. It was just like mathematical. There was like no flow and energy on the dance floor. Like they played good music and stuff. And then I'm like, no, women, we have a little bit more to say. Like maybe there's a message, hidden message. You might not notice it right away, you might not feel it, but it's there, and we try to share it. So it's definitely, I see how in Mexico, I can understand how it might be a little harder. It's tough. You have to kind of censor yourself sometimes to explain your point of view or to share. It's difficult. I was just checking on Instagram. Palacio Nacional se iluminó con la pinta México feminicida en representación de las 11 mujeres que mueren a diario en este país. 11 women die per day in Mexico. So it was, it's definitely something that's like a constant battle.
Yeah, because this wall is built for this day, and an artist collective put all the names of the women that have died or disappeared. This is a huge building and huge wall, and there are all these women written there in memory. Because I don't know, last year they built a representation, a symbol, as a feminist symbol in front of another cathedral, and then someone destroyed it. This kind of things of these collectives is super important. To visualize what the problem, because it's not, we are just victims. No, we are sick and tired of what is happening, and we need security and we need respect, and we need justice. Sometimes even the mother culturally pass that message to their children. Like I hate to say this, but my mother told me that, hey, you need to wash the dishes because your father and your brother are the men. And I say, no, I mean, they have 2 hands, they have their mouth, so they clean their things. No, I mean, it's super equal that way. And mother told that to their child, and it's 80% of our population population that thinks like that. It's sad.
No, it's real. And it's not only in Mexico, right? It's all over the
For sure.
world.
It's all over.
And it's like on top of, it's definitely a mentality. It's definitely been ingrained in us. It's intergenerational and it's economics. It's a whole host of things where you're already disenfranchised or, low income and or there's no resources and the government's corrupt. All of those things compounded. And then you place like abuse and you're released and try to gain control and power. And unfortunately, you take it out on the woman right next to you, right? So it's a whole shift politically, mentally, culturally. But I commend everybody for standing up. And I think art is definitely a tool for social justice. And that's in Haiti, that's in Mexico, that's in Montreal, that's in New York. And it's very, very powerful.
If anyone has any more questions or things you want to talk about, I definitely wanted to talk if we had any ideas for the future, perhaps things that we want to do or can do, especially with all of this like kind of quick movement. Also, I wanted to open up for the audience if they had any questions. I would really love to hear from Rosetta. I know she's here.
El 8 de marzo conmemora el Día Internacional de la Mujer.
Dia Internacional da Mulher.
International Woman DJs.
Hello, everybody. I am Rosetta Deep from South Africa. I am a DJ and a producer.
If you have a question or something you want to share, I would love to hear how it is being a woman DJ producer in South Africa right now.
I'd like to add something. In South Africa, I'm sure each and every industry around the world is different. In South Africa, what I've noticed is that as women in the industry, we need to make sure we do our research and get as much knowledge as possible. Because if you don't know much, people will always give you directions. Sometimes is to benefit them. They will always have something to say on a woman because most of the times we don't take things to our own hands. We always rely on people who are already doing those things. And some of them, they don't want us to prosper and break through the industry. So as women, I'm just encouraging everyone to make sure that you research. And when you get to what you want to do, you already know most of the things, how they are working out. Because as much as we can have the talent, we also need to support it with our character. We need to be disciplined individuals. We need to be able to keep time. We need to be able to be organized because our talent cannot make us shine without our character supporting our talent. So that's what I'd like to say. We need to work on our character first. Talent is there, is a given. It's a gift from God. But in order to make it shine, let us work on ourselves. Let us work on our emotions because we are often told that we are emotional beings. When someone is getting a point across us, then we might react emotionally. Let us work on our emotions as women. There's nothing wrong about emotions, but we need to be able to be in charge of everything around us, because if we are not, then people will be able to detect everything for us. Yeah, that's my point. Thank you.
You're right that we have to thank you, Rosetta, for coming on and speaking. It was a pleasure to see you. You're right that it's almost like we need to like know more, learn more, be ready, it's like an assault almost, we have to have our guns ready with knowledge and talent to shoot them, at anyone who's like maybe just trying to, I don't know, play with our heads or don't believe us or I don't know what, you know what I mean? But we need to be like one step ahead, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, right? Not just in DJing. I mean, I feel like that's every profession as a woman.
And it's crazy because we are like one step ahead, or we have to do this extra work when we're not getting the extra money, even at the base level. So that's something that needs to change as well. Shout out to South Africa. It has a special place in my heart, especially with pushing forward the genre of Afro house, or however you claim your music to be. And I know it's been appropriated over and over and over again, but South Africa has been a foundation for bringing this globally. So shout outs to South Africa. One day, I pray that I'll be able to go to South Africa. I've been to the motherland, but only Dakar. But South Africa is calling, so it's just good to have that vibe here on the panel from Haiti to South Africa. So salute. And Mexico City, as I'm gonna keep going. I've been there several times, and Mexico City has a special place in my heart too. Y'all really know electronic music and your club scene, art scene, incredible. Oh my gosh. And I see some similarities between traditional Haitian art and Mexican art, which is interesting, but it's all indigenous, but that's another conversation. And then while I'm at it, I might as well go to Montreal, because y'all have been giving me so much love over the years. And hook or crook, I don't care what the weather is like, I travel to Montreal. I've taken that 8-hour bus. I've driven. Shout outs to Nubia Nene and other folks, crew. I got my, Haitian diasporic peeps, my Francophone folk. And I remember one time I went all the way out there because Bodhisattva and somebody else, I think it was Gabe. Gabe was DJing. And I was like, you know what? Montreal's not that far. So I travel for music. But anyway, I digress. I just want to shout out folks and where they're from.
And I mean, ideally, we'll take this around the world, see each other in live person and DJ with each other. It would be super dope. That's the end.
Yes, Toronto. Somebody said yes. I've been to Toronto too. Thank you for the love.
And we can't forget Havana. We got to big up B Joyce. She's already welcoming us to Havana. So
yes, and I've DJ'd with her there, and that was magical, very spiritual place. And that's that connection between live instrumentation, polyrhythms, for me, and for all of us, or, just that connection, just seeing it in the diaspora, right? That we're all connected through the rhythm. So Cuba is definitely, that would be amazing.
We have any questions? You guys want to talk about some specific stuff? I'm sad that House of Priscilla Cavalcante couldn't join us. We're going to share her link, Rosetta Deep's Instagram link, in the chat. But if you have anything you want to share, Rosetta, ideas for the future. Mine is the festival. What do you guys have planned?
Totally support you for the next year, lady. And to all the girls, I mean, in Mexico, you have your home. For sure, I'm open to any collaborations around the world. I'm going to keep pushing music, doing more mashups, learning stuff, open my heart to the world and to you girls. I'm really pleased and honored to be in this panel with all of you guys. And thank you so much for your time.
Aisha has her debut single, 7 tracks coming out. So we're going to hear from that soon.
I hope people like the ride. I mean, that's the project right now. I'm working differently, sometimes with Ableton, sometimes only with like synthesizers and stuff like that. You can tell that I'm Haitian. You can tell that I've been to Brazil for 7 years. You can tell I've lived in Europe with the whole rave thing. You'll hear it. You'll be able to hear that vibes and stuff. And I can't wait to share it all.
Sabine is also dropping tracks all the time.
Yes. It's definitely in more production. That was definitely a learning curve for me over the years, but I've definitely gained a momentum during this past year. And we have some great projects coming up. We're actually working on a track tonight with actually a friend of mine who's from South Africa. So we're going to do a joint. We'll see what happens, that Haiti and South Africa magic. We're just looking at specific cultures around the world and looking at various traditional sounds and merging that with our sounds. So that's been fun because that's part of that research that we were talking about as well, and being very intentional in our craft. Shout outs to Brazil as well. We did a track called Angola that has that berimbau in it and that vibe, and we mixed it with a traditional Haitian track. I'm really excited about the future of exploring all of this and seeing where it goes. Also just navigating this live streaming space space, but I want it to be more of like a performance art type thing. So I'm trying to wrap my head around that and what tools for soundscaping and just having more of an immersive experience. But I'm excited. I'm just letting Spirit move me and really building off of Oya Sound. We have some great stuff coming out in the future. So yeah.
No, I'm really proud. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
All of you ladies. Kind of coincides with Sharday Anderson left a message here. What does the future of DJing look like now because of COVID? How do you think things may change? We talked a bit about that, but if there's any things you want to add, I like definitely a lot more online. A lot of these workshops, people working from home, maybe half the time, that's going to be like a new normal. I mean, for DJs, it totally sucks to stay doing that online. So for sure, it's going to have to go back to people. Like, we're not going to let that stay that way. People are not going to allow that.
I was telling somebody that I feel like I'm turning into a robot if I see one more screen and I have to get these protective glasses or whatever. Some people predict holograms and we could be in each other's cities and things like that. I'm open to technology. I'm all about Afrofuturism and all that. But yeah, just as long as there's some like foundation and integrity behind this work and this new normal or technology, I'm all for it. It's just hopefully we can have supportive systems where we learn off of each other. And I've had some DJ friends that are like, you have to get on Twitch. You have to get on Twitch. I'm like, all right, so we're doing it together, giving each other tutorials, and that's how we're building on our craft and supporting each other. So I think that's also the future as well, because sometimes as DJs, we stay siloed, but we have to remove the ego because our craft in this industry, you gotta be very careful. We could make it or break our creativity. Actually, I think that women are doing some really amazing and creative things that I've seen. And that is maybe the future of DJing as well, like us getting the acclamation and really pushing us forward.
The future is female. I guess we see that a lot more. It's true. It's actually really nice, you know? I'm going to say thank you to Remi, who's been holding it down at the CJLO 1690 account on Zoom. Francella, our station manager, who started off with the acknowledgements. Both of my sisters who are on panel, actually, thank you for your support. You know, family support is super important. Friends and family. Oh my God, I'm gonna get teary. So I'm really happy to have shared this time with you guys. Aisha, Sabine, Lizette, super dope. Priscilla in spirit for sure. Talking about Brazil, you know, she was here in spirit. So just want to say thank you so much, Michelle, for your questions and starting off our conversations. Rosetta representing South Africa, sharing with us. Carol, who was here earlier from France, who had a mix with us. And everyone, Katie, everyone on this call, so many amazing people, Eric, Leslie, Paul, Sharday. Just want to say thank you so much for being here. So, I mean,
give it up for yourself, Kelly.
Thank you.
Yes. Amazing work. Everyone, the team, the advertisement, I couldn't even keep up. All the tags. The reposting, the stories, you guys are on it, the artwork, the coordination. This was a labor of love, and give it up for yourself. You've been on point with contacting, so that's great.
Trying. I think
so everything was beautiful and it went really well. And shout outs to all the DJs. Like, this is incredible, and I'm excited to see where it grows. Congratulations.
I hope you'll all be involved in the future ones, because we're definitely going to take it further. Hopefully, I say that now. You know what I'd like to? Should we just say thank you? Enjoy your International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day to you.
Happy International Women's Day, girls.
Thank you.
Hi, Bobo.
Air horns. Gracias. Thank you. Sending love.
Much love, girls.
See you guys soon.